conceptualizing Iran, China, and Russia as this united axis, united front against American hegemony. I don't think that tracks because Russia and China are like historically they would be rivals, considering China has aspirations. They see the east of Russia from Vladivostok all the way to like, was it Tanatuva, whatever the region is to the left of Mongolia. They have aspirations there. So the fact that we keep pushing Russia in China's direction is so frustrating. And you're actually hearing this echoed by a lot of people in the Trump sphere. And I think it's entirely accurate, is like we're not thinking long term about this, of pushing three countries that really don't have much in common. And, Russia and China, I mentioned the Far East, you have Central Asia. They have competing interests there with all the minerals that are there. And, Russia sees these as like their lost Soviet territories, and the Chinese see this as like an extension of China. So you have these overlapping claims. It just makes zero sense that we're pushing Russia in the direction of China, because they should. I mean, following the fall of the Soviet Union, there was a chance there where we could have incorporated them into the Western sphere. So it's just completely mind-boggling foreign policy.
That's verboten to even mention here in the U.S., though. You can't talk about having any kind of positive relations with Russia. If you just the fact that we're talking about it on this show, people are going to be like, oh.
Well, and I don't want to downplay. Like, people take this as like they use this to take a shot at boomers, where they're like, oh, they still view Russia as the Soviet Union. I do want to say, like, if you grew up going to school hiding under desks, like, it's hard to get that out of your mind that there's this adversary. I mean, you can speak.
I was never doing duck and cover, but I do remember the fall of the Soviet Union. I do remember.
Like, you speak to people that were around during the World War. It took them a long time to get over their adversaries in that war. Yeah. So it's like, I don't necessarily give the boomers a hard time. That being said, it's time to get real. It's 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Russia multiple times, and while it's a different place, it doesn't strike me as like the Soviet Union. Right. When I think of what I saw as a kid in movies and stuff like that, or the way it was portrayed. And granted, Hollywood was just portraying Hollywood, and so there was a certain amount of theatrics to what I saw. When I actually went to Russia, like it could have been any other European city, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, arguably, Vladimir Putin does think it is still the Soviet Union, or at least should be, and that's kind of what was pushing the claims. But
hold on, I want to put a pin in that. Do you think that Vladimir Putin has aspirations beyond Ukraine, beyond the territory that he's taken now in Ukraine? Do you think? I personally think he might go for all of Ukraine. But there's a different relationship with Ukraine and the rest of Europe. There are people that are making he'll go for Poland. I don't think that he'll go for any NATO countries at all.
I don't think that he would go that far. I mean, I think maybe he would want to. I just don't think it's possible. They're already having enough of a struggle in Ukraine. I mean, in the early days of the war, they thought the special military operation would last a week.
Yeah,
and it didn't. And I think would he go for all of Ukraine? I mean, yeah, I imagine yes. His whole philosophy is pushing that the idea of Ukraine is fictional, right? Created by the administrative structure of the Soviet Union. And of course, there's a lot of pushback on that from the Ukrainians. I think that I don't think he'll ever get the full Ukraine. I mean, the Russians, the thing that the pro-Ukrainian liberals don't talk about is the cost to Ukrainian society. And I think J.D. Vance talked about this. There are tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian men dead. Like they've lost or maimed an entire generation. Mm-hmm. People have massively fed the country, especially the women, and it's going to be really tough to recover from that if they do still exist, at the end of the war. And I mean, even Russia, they're pulling convicts from the prisons to go fight because they obviously don't care if their convicts die. But it's also partially to hide the brutality of the war in Russian society. And ultimately, I do think that there will be a deal of some kind. Maybe Putin is trying to wait Trump out. But for as much as Trump and Vance criticize the war and criticize the European Union for not upholding its security obligations, there is still interest in Russia not taking over the whole of Ukraine. I think where, a lot of America First conservatives and regular Americans have this aversion is the immediate European rhetoric is, let's go put boots on the ground in Ukraine. And the Americans think, why would we do that? we just got out of a war, and the war in Ukraine is, I mean, it's trench warfare. It's vicious. It's completely different from the wars in the Middle East too. They're like these drones. I've seen some of these videos against my will, and I would not wish that on anybody.
No, it's totally different than Afghanistan. It's different than fighting the militias in Iraq. It's totally different.
I do think that Russia has, I mean, under Putin, has imperial ambitions of some kind. I think, I mean, that's kind of been their entire history. It has always been the push west because the warm water port thing, right? And I don't really see that stopping anytime soon. Maybe after Vladimir Putin is gone, somebody with a different mindset won't pursue that. Who knows? But ultimately, I do think that, especially in the wake of the Wagner rebellion and all that, I think that there is probably some internal pressure that isn't public, and maybe, just maybe, Trump will actually follow through on some kind of commitment. And that's why they're trying to ink the critical mineral deal. Like this is not a situation where America says, "Hey, we're going to give you everything we have, and we just want you to be our friend and be nice." Because every single time we've done that, we've gotten screwed over by civilian governments that don't fulfill their obligations, whatever they are, especially when we were trying and failing to nation build in the Middle East, but even among other countries, even in our hemisphere, that have taken a bunch of Chinese money and don't follow the actual interests of their country and or our lead. And so I think that if Zelensky is open and willing to negotiate an actual fair price for U.S. involvement, then maybe we'll work something out. But we don't owe them anything.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.